As the title of this video states, I have played Baldur's Gate 3 for over 1,000 hours at this point. However, when I started nearing the quadruple digits in terms of my playtime, I also started feeling a little bit fatigued. I knew exactly what to expect from each enemy, where to find the items necessary for my party, and what quests to do in what order to maximize XP. In other words, I started feeling like the game was a bit too predictable and, dare I say, even easy, even on the hardest difficulty, Honor Mode. So in order to inject the game with a feeling of novelty and added extra challenge, I went on a quest to find some mods which could help with this. And these mods are what I want to share with you all today. If you're like me, having sunk way too many hours into the game and looking for that extra challenge, keep watching and hopefully you'll find this helpful. Oh, and all mods that I'm recommending here today will be available in the in-game mod manager to ensure all my recommendations are accessible to all players. Disclaimer before we jump into the video. Always make sure to read the instructions for each mod and make sure you're not installing mutually incompatible mods at once, as this can cause problems in your save file. Some of the mods on this list do have possible conflicts with one another, so please make sure to read instructions in the mod manager before installing. Now, without further ado, let's look at the first mod on the list, Ancient Megapack by Paramonov. This mod is absolutely everything to me, and if I had to pick only one single mod from this list to keep in my game, it would be this. This mod has a few different key things that it changes in terms of gameplay. Firstly, it randomizes loot not only on enemies, but also when completing quests in the game. When a quest is done, you're shown a screen with some options to choose from, thematically matched to the quest/boss you just defeated. It also adds runic shards, which can add extra damage sources or other useful buffs, like flat bonuses to saving throws for example, to your armor and weapons. There are also different coins varying in rarity, which can be put into a void capsule and turned into an item matching the rarity of the coin. These can also be re-rolled 10 times, which is helpful in case the first item you get isn't relevant to anyone in your party. You can also find void capsules sold at various merchants, as well as in interplanar chests, which are littered all across the map and require some lucky lockpicking rolls to get into. But that's not all that this mod does. Not only does it completely overhaul the loot system in the game in a way that has made me want to do new playthroughs one after the other, it also comes with 3, or actually 4, difficulty settings to choose from. I've done a playthrough on easy and normal setting being my randomized challenge run, link in the description, and I'm currently trying to beat hard difficulty on Honor Mode. When I tell you the kinds of difficulty boosts that normal and hard difficulties provide are exactly what I've been looking for. After playing Honor Mode on AMP Hard, the regular vanilla Honor feels like absolute child's play. I won't spoil too much about it to those who want to find out for themselves, although my VODs for the challenge run are up on my YouTube in case you just want to see how unfairly brutal it is. Let me just say, I've never been a huge fan of life clerics. The way I see it, the best way to beat the game is by becoming unhittable and or ending combat in less than 5 rounds, but in my AMP Hard Honor Mode run, I've actually needed Shadowheart, my designated life cleric for this run, countless times. There's also a hidden ultra difficulty which pops up once you make it far enough in the game that you can opt into. I haven't explored that difficulty yet, but I can imagine it's pure torture and I look forward to it. In short, I adore Ancient Megapack and the ways in which it absolutely transforms the game and makes each playthrough feel completely different. I love the randomness of what loot you get and how it makes the gameplay way less predictable and forces you to adapt based on what loot you get, instead of always just gunning for the best gear you know spawns in certain places. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but as I say, I started to find that a little bit boring. The randomized loot also makes me want to complete quests I might normally skip so that I can see what cool options I get. So it encourages me to engage in a more meaningful way throughout the game, especially in Act 3, where I usually just would skip the most content if I know it won't be necessary for me. Unlock level curve level 13 to 20 by Dustbag. Speaking of Act 3 and skipping content, this brings me to my next absolute most necessary mod I just cannot play without. This mod by Dustbag allows your characters to level beyond the level 12 cap up to level 20, which to my understanding is typically the max level in D&D, but I could be wrong about that. Prior to downloading this mod, I would get to Act 3 and reach level 12 pretty much when going through the quests available in Rivington and Worm's Crossing, at the latest pretty quickly in the lower city. This would leave me feeling like there is just no point in doing any further quests, and I would end up skipping a huge chunk of what Act 3 has to offer, since I'm the kind of person who needs the game to dangle a carrot in the form of XP in front of my nose in order for me to want to progress. This mod completely fixes that issue, and together with the loot randomizer from AMP, has made me someone who actually enjoys Act 3 now. I went from someone who just did the easiest quests, like returning the amulet to the temple and finding the letters for the Sword Coast Courier for the easy XP, to someone who actually feels like there's a point to doing all of this apart from just getting the easiest form of XP to hit the level cap as fast as possible. I absolutely love this mod, it is unskippable for me and I won't be playing without it ever again. XP mods, Various by Dasbag or Rishi Artis. This kind of goes hand in hand with the above mod, since as far as I'm aware, there is not enough XP in the game to reach level 20 naturally. Trust me, I've tried. I had a playthrough where I wasn't using any XP altering mods and did mostly everything down to spawning guards and steel watchers in Act 3 over and over again to gain extra XP that way, and I believe I got to level 17 or 18 before I got bored and just finished the playthrough. I tend to really only use double XP nowadays because it feels balanced with all the other difficulty boosters I play with, plus it's nice to just kind of speed up the leveling throughout the game, especially in the beginning. It also removes the pressure of feeling like I have to clear everything in each act, especially in Act 1, and I can decide to just skip some stuff that doesn't interest me, like the Crash, which, sue me, I always kind of hit a wall with my playthroughs there, and I mostly just want to skip it. That's not to say that I skip it every single time, but yeah, I don't know. I just normally find myself wanting to get to Act 2 already. However, the XP mods I can understand that some players will want to skip, as it can be quite cheaty feeling, but again, for me it feels balanced since I have 1,000 difficulty boosters on anyway. Enemies Reworked by Relamod. Speaking of 1,000 difficulty boosters, here is another one I cannot imagine playing without ever again. What this mod does is add extra passive buffs, more spells and actions, potions, etc. to enemies. For example, archer enemies now have access to the same special arrows as the player, and trust me, these guys love spamming Ilmater arrows just as much as I do. The enemies will also dip their weapons with poisons to debuff you or even incapacitate you. This mod makes enemies feel smarter and less predictable, which I love. So if you feel like you're in need of more variance in your fights, I definitely recommend this mod as it makes combat more challenging and unpredictable in the best way. More enemies in basic fights by Relamod. Another absolute banger from Relamod. If you've ever fought the goblins at the camp and thought to yourself, huh, I wish there were more goblins here, then this one's for you. What this mod does is simple. It adds extra enemies in various fights throughout the game to make combat even more challenging. I've now gotten so used to this mod that I feel like I would find the game boring without all the extra enemies, since they just provide that slight extra challenge throughout a playthrough. Finally, I have 2 honorable mentions of mods that I find myself at times uninstalling for certain playthroughs, however, I feel like are so important to mention here because I find myself equally as often reinstalling them and putting them back in my game when I feel like doing a playthrough with them. First, Extra Encounters and Minibosses by Relamod. This mod deserves a special shout out as it is one I have played with for a couple of playthroughs, but I do also find myself uninstalling it for some of the challenge runs that I do. However, if you miss the feeling from your first playthrough where you didn't have the map and enemy locations memorized and would constantly be running into trouble unexpected, then I definitely recommend this mod. This mod adds ton of new enemy encounters throughout the world, and I guarantee you will land yourself into some difficult combats if you're not careful enough. I genuinely cannot recommend this one enough though. From time to time, when I yearn for that feeling of surprise, I go and reinstall this, and it is like my gazillionth playthrough turns into my first one all over again. This one also works quite well with mods like AMP, that gives you some fun gear to try out in all the new encounters. Although, if you care about balancing out XP, you might want to download this along with another one of Relamod's mods called XP Rebalance, Extra Encounters, which helps keep the experience close to vanilla and avoid overleveling. Although, it should be noted that XP Rebalance does not work with any other XP mods, so choose wisely. Finally, last, but certainly not least, Fate's Equipment Distribution. Trust me, I am by no means leaving this mod last because I think it isn't worth mentioning. It's actually quite the contrary. I found this mod before I found AMP, and I still swap the two out from time to time. The two mods are compatible, but I find my gameplay experience more enjoyable with only one of them in my game at a time, but that's just personal preference. Nonetheless, this mod is perfect for those who find that AMP is a bit too unvanilla-like. What FED does is add hundreds and hundreds of items throughout the world for you to find, making exploration more encouraged and exciting, especially after a few playthroughs. You might find new gear on defeated enemies, traders, in buried chests, in previously empty chests, etc, etc, etc. Hello, Editing Tani here. I realized in editing that I did not explain this mod well enough at all. So basically what this mod does is this creator has made a bunch of different class-specific bundles of items that this mod will then distribute into like chests and as loot for, you know, defeated enemies and stuff. So I have a few of the item packs, but not all. So I used this mod to distribute those items. But there is a variation of this called FED-AIO, which stands for all in one, which basically just has all of those class-specific packs of items and it distributes those for you. So basically it's different from AMP in that sense, so it won't actually do much unless you have those packs. But yeah, I thought it would be worth mentioning that if you don't want all packs of items, you just want like some extra things, you can do that. But do note that you can only have one version of this mod installed at once. So yeah, I definitely recommend this mod to anyone who finds that AMP is too much of a departure from the vanilla gameplay, but finds themselves wishing that the game would have more surprises in store in terms of exploration and loot. I cannot sing the praises of this mod enough, as I too find myself occasionally just wanting to play the game as quote-unquote normally as possible, aka not with mods that give bosses 1,000,000,000% more health, 17 extra actions, and a flat plus 600 bonus to hit. With that said though, I just cannot ever see myself going back to the completely vanilla game where I have every piece of loot and gear memorized. It sounds too predictable and quite frankly boring to me at this point. I love starting a playthrough with a build in mind and then not getting any good gear until way later down the line. It forces me to think outside the box and approach situations in different ways, and that's why I play this game. What drew me into Baldur's Gate 3 was realizing how much the game rewards creativity in the face of unpredictability, and once I became too comfortable with the game, I turned to mods to keep up that feeling of uncertainty and excitement. So, I hope that you found this video helpful, and if there are any mods that I haven't mentioned yet, please feel free to pop them down in the comments, as I'm always keen to try new mods to keep the game fresh. And if you have tried any of these mods, feel free to also share your thoughts on them down below. Thank you so much everyone for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you all have a lovely day. Bye!